Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. UFC 306 in Las Vegas in the Sphere. A lot of hype heading into this card. We're going to jump into this flyweight matchup between Edgar, Chairez, and Joshua Van. So you got Chairez. He is 11-5, ranked 43rd in the world at flyweight, which I don't know if that's that's according to Tapology. He is from Mexico, Mexicali actually. 28 years old, 5'7", 72-inch reach. He represents Entrum Gym, which is the one in I think Tijuana. It's the gym that Brendan Moreno used to train at with his team, and then they left and they kind of
he's one of Moreno's boys.
Yeah, it definitely, most likely was one of Moreno's boys. If you look at him a little bit more in detail, let me pull him up real quick. He is 1-1 with one no contest in the UFC. He actually fought on the Contender Series, lost that fight, but eventually somehow hopped on and got a deal with the UFC. 4 knockout wins, 7 submission wins, 2 submission losses, 3 decision losses. And his last fight, he was supposed to fight he was supposed to fight Kevin Boras, and Kevin pulled out, so Joshua Van hops in on short notice. But his last fight was against Daniel Lacerda. Chairez missed weight on that one, but still won the fight. First round triangle choke. So like the reason why he fought Lacerda is because in his first fight against Lacerda, it was a premature stoppage, and that was considered a no contest. But he's fought some really, really good dudes. He's fought, good dudes, but he's probably lost to a lot of them, even on the regional scene. His first fight in the UFC was against Tatsuro Tiara, and we've seen what he's doing now. He's a top 5 UFC flyweight. He's fought Clay Carpenter on the Contender Series, lost that fight. Jesus Aguilar, he fought him a couple years. Alberto Trujillo, so he's been through the grinder, in his fights. And man, this fight is a dangerous fight for him. Let's look at Joshua Van, and we've kind of broke him down a few times, because he's been fighting quite often, right, and winning. And so Joshua Van, ranked 22 in the world, according to Tapology. He is the favorite coming to, even though he's short notice, he's the favorite coming into this fight, from Houston, Texas. But Myanmar, Burma, he represents. 22 years old, 5'5", 65-inch reach. Now, when you look at them and the tail of the tape, we'll get to the tail of the tape, but let's look at Joshua Van and what he's coming off of. He is coming off the knockout loss to Charles Johnson, which was a phenomenal fight. His record is 3-1 in the UFC, 6 knockouts, wins, 1 knockout loss, which was his last fight, 1 submission loss, 2 submission wins, and 2 decision wins for Joshua Van. But leading up to the Charles Johnson fight, he had a lot of fights canceled.
4.
Yeah, 4, like in different dates as well. Like one of them was in March or April. Then there was the fight in June that never happened, and then there was there was a couple fights in June.
In one day, he had 2 fights canceled, including one against Tatsuro.
Yeah, and then they flipped it. They flipped the opponents, and it still didn't happen. The fights. So like he was really gunning to continue the momentum, but the momentum has somewhat derailed because of Charles Johnson. When you look at the tail of the tape, when you look at these guys, Chairez has a 7-inch reach advantage, only a 2-inch height advantage, which is very, very unusual. Yeah. Anyways, what do you think about the matchup?
So for me, I think the one thing to keep in mind is that Chairez has 100% finish rate between, right? Is it 100%? He's finished a lot of guys, 7-4, right? He's got 0 decision wins. So it'll be an exciting matchup no matter what, just because you have one guy he's got a lot of submission and a couple knockout wins in Chairez, and then Van has mostly knockout wins and everything. So that in itself is really something to watch and something to like for people to get excited about, especially if they don't know the matchup. I'm a little bit worried about the fact that Van is back so quick after a knockout loss. Having also suffered knockout losses and everything, I think it's really important not to come back too quick because you got to get your head right. You got to get your jaw back and everything. So especially because he's a very good striker, but fighting somebody with longer reach and that has shown that they have the ability to knock people out, I think that will play a factor. But Chairez also has a lot of submission wins, so even if, it does go to the ground, Van will have to be careful. Though he has also shown that he's proficient enough on the ground to at least get back up if he needs to. So it is a bit of a toss-up. I'm actually kind of leaning towards Chairez in this situation. And if anything, it's more because it's such a quick turnaround for Van that I'm just a little bit worried about his chin.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. You're stating facts, right? Like we don't know, like how the brain recovers. We have no idea. You could feel 100% fine, but you just don't know until you start getting cracked, right? And you don't know what's going on, in camps as well, right?
Yeah.
Like there's guys that are entering fights with concussions because they need to get paid, they need to fight, right? Like there's situations like that happening all the time. You never hear about it because why? It's not a good look. You know what I mean? Like commissions are not gonna like that. Like because they can't scan your brain for concussions, can they?
What they scan for like
Abnormalities.
abnormalities.
But I don't know what the
basically.
hell that means. I seen the pictures of like the brain and the colors and
I've seen the CT scans and everything, but like it's not like I know how to read them.
Exactly.
I can't look at it and be like,
it's like for broken bones and stuff, like we can see it, right? But for the brain, it's different. So that is a major concern, right? And Van has a style where he does get hit to land stuff as well. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, you gotta think about, okay, compare Chairez versus Charles Johnson. Compare their striking and compare their wrestling. Like compare their grappling. I feel like Charles Johnson was just like miles ahead of Chairez. You know what I mean? Chairez, like he could take advantage of it and go right into the fire like instantly, just because he thinks like, hey, Van was knocked out in his last fight. His coaches might be saying that and says, hey, our plan is to go in there and just go straight at him and punch him in the face.
Honestly, I wouldn't. If I was in that situation, I'd still, like, he's got good enough grappling and he has enough submission victories that even, Van's knocked enough people out that if you go in the fire, I don't care how chinny he might be with a quick comeback and stuff, like, I don't want to go in the fire with that.
Yeah.
I want to look for, so I agree with you. I think, Charles Johnson was definitely quite, like, he's just more experienced and just at a higher level and everything. So I think comparatively, Van might go in there and be like, I feel good.
Yeah. And he's got the chip on his shoulder too. He just lost, you know what I mean? And he wants to get rid of that taste, and it's the spear. I think that Chairez, like from watching his previous fights, and I don't think like he will change his style much, but who knows? But I think the best plan for him is to go in there and pressure Van, even though Van wants that. Pressure him and then just throw like heavy shots to see if Van can take it from the start.
Yeah.
And if he can, then you possibly in a situation where you can finish Van or submit him, rock him and then take his neck or something, right? Because Chairez is capable of that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case. I think Chairez is gonna play Van's game, and Van's gonna knock him out. I think that's what's gonna happen. I think Chairez is just a little too wild, right?
I get what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, he can be all over the place, right? And then that leaves openings for Van. And Van is, we consider him like this, like, march him down, like, brute striker. But to be honest, like, he's smart too. All fighters are smart. They all see things in the fight where normal people cannot see.
Yeah.
Like, because they're capable of, like, staying calm and then reading things that a regular person in a fight would not be able to see. They'll be looking at it, but they have no idea what they're fucking looking at, right? It's like, you hear fighters talking about, if like they move this way or like they twitch this, and it gets very detailed. But anyways, I think Van. I'm gonna take Van in this one.
You gonna take Van?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Van in this one. But I would not be surprised if Chairez goes in there and finishes the fight, though. But I think Chairez is going to go play the game of Van. And Van's real young still. He's only 22, so it's not like he's like a 32 that has like a bunch of fights and he's went through wars and stuff. We're just, I'm just looking at it as like where he is in his career, but we just don't know about the brain. We don't know how that knockout.
Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that this was short notice, I would actually be just saying, okay, I really think that Van's going to go in there and outbox Chairez and win this. But I am worried about that. And so because of that, I kind of think that it might play against him. And I actually kind of pick Chairez just because I think you're right. I think he'll play into Van's game. But
it might come into his favor.
It might go into his favor because he might get caught. Like, Van might still get caught with something. And then, and worst case scenario, Chairez tries to get it to the ground then, and then next thing you know, maybe he gets a triangle, maybe he gets, so, for me, I really think that, the quick turnaround after a knockout loss might be a factor in this, and so I am kind of giving it to Chairez. Sorry, Van.